All right, welcome back to Flight Sim 2020 and welcome back to our A2A Comanche Australia to South Africa tour thing. In the previous episode, we finished off here at Alice Springs, and in today's video, we've got another long route. So I said in the beginning I was going to try and avoid the longer routes because I can't really sit and talk for 5 hours, and I don't think people really want to watch all of that anyway. So the best thing I can think to do this is get up to cruise and then just do a bit of the cruise time lapse from there on. But I said at certain points along the route, we're going to have to do it. Today is one of those legs because we're going from here at Alice Springs over to Longreach. So we're still heading a little bit more west than we kind of need to, but I think the route that's going to make the most sense is Longreach and then up to Cairns. There's some points along the way that we can check out as well. Obviously, Longreach is a very significant airport, is the birthplace of Qantas. So we'll chat about that a bit more probably once we arrive there, or maybe in the beginning of the next episode. But yeah, so for today, it's going to be a bit of a cruise fest because we've got about, I think it's just under 4 hours cruise over to Longreach. But there weren't that many really particularly useful airports in between here and where we need to go. And once again, the other point of this tour is to visit some interesting places. Now, interestingly enough, if we jump into the cockpit, the previous episode had some issues with the magnetos dropping. So I did check in with maintenance over here and they found nothing wrong. So I'm going to check those again today and see, because that is a little bit weird. They were perfectly serviceable. Nice and cold here this morning. So that is a little strange. Anyway, let's go ahead and just do our pre-flight and get everything checked. So we'll first unlock and then let's do our walk around. So actually, before we do that, we need to go all the way up to full fuel. And our payload stays exactly the same, so that's cool. We won't do this, we'll do that manually. Okay, so we filled up completely. Obviously, we're going as far as we can today. Right, check the fuel gauge. They're both up, probably because I was testing things. Don't actually remember. Okay, so as always, let's just check all of our surfaces. Flaps look good. This guy moves nice and freely, no issues. This should be full up, which it looks like it is. Right, just test that fuel. That looks fine to me. Hello. Right, just chuck that on the ground. Lights are cool. I've already done these. That should be all the way up to the top as well. And that looks perfect. Cool. Next up, chocks are done. Test the fuel here. Now, in theory, this should work because one of the main tanks is open. Okay, cool. Again, that looks perfect. Alright, just have a look. I don't know if there's anything that can actually get stuck in here in the sim, but it looks fine for now. This is probably the big one. How does the oil look? The lighting isn't helping, but I think that's okay. We might need to top up. We probably got a good few flights before we need to top that up. Although I say this, I don't actually know because we've never actually finished the oil. Right, that looks perfect. Okay, chocks are done. This will be cold because I haven't actually turned it on, so that's okay. Lights we've done. Right, that looks fine. Oops, a little bit quick on that one. Okay, tip tank fuel. Oh, that looks good. issues there. Flaps, same thing. Alright, that's not blocked. Again, I don't know if that can actually get blocked in the sim, but it looks fine. Okay, tie down is done. That is nice and smooth. And I don't think that's actually going to move much more than that anyway. No blockages. Baggage is all done, and that's locked. And we are done with our walk around. So let's go back here. Over to the checklist. Okay. We don't have any passengers. It's just us. It is cold. So let's get up and running so we can get the temperature of the engine warming up. And warm ourselves up as well. Seatbelts control like parking brake, gear switch. Cool. Flaps, radios, autopilot, avionics, circuit breakers, and beacon on. Next one. Okay, fuel selectors. We are on the right-hand tank. Sorry, we're on the left-hand tank, but it doesn't actually matter because all of them we've topped up as much as we can. Okay, mixture and props we need to do. Okay, so mixtures full forward, and the prop we can put full forward as well. Throttle cracked. Carb heat is off, master switch on. Fuel pump. And let's check that we get pressure. Right, that's good. Pump off. Let's give it some, oh, that's the carb heat. Let's give it some prime. Seems like the primer wasn't locked somehow. I'm gonna give it quite a few because it's cold. Okay, now it's locked. Then mags.
Clear prop.
To both. I will check that we are clear. Looks good. And then let's see. It struggled a bit, and I think it's because it's cold. Oh, it's running terribly. Right, let's get the avionics on. Oops. How do I tell it? Because I accidentally clicked on that's always going to do the lean, and there's no other buttons. Okay, so what I'm going to have to do then is just go here and say update. Now it should say, okay, cool, that's better. Right, let's get some temperature in here. So cabin heat. We'll put this on a bit as well. Okay, she was running a little rough, but I think it's just because the temps are down. Look at those temperatures. Very cold. There's just things driving through us as usual. Right, we'll get that cabin temp to come up. Okay, that's done. Right, prime is locked, avionics on, ammeters. Good. Radios. Cool. Okay, heading indicator, let's check. So that is 305. And this is nowhere near that. Jeez, how does this get so far off? So we're about one click over, so something like that. Okay, I'm not too much in a hurry because the more we do this, the more our temps are coming up and the engine's going to be a lot happier. Those temps are already way better. And what's our temperature? Still coming up now at 13. Let's come down to this. See what on earth is going on here. Right, so we're taking off. What is this runway? I can't remember now. Is it gonna have a label? No. Okay, so we're going to spin around onto the apron, and then I guess we can take off from here. We don't need that much. Don't think. We should be fine. I'll have a look once we get there, and we can take off from that intersection. Right, we probably need even more heat. Okay, let's release the parking brake and just test the brakes. We've got quite a bit of power on, so that works fine. Okay, a run up we'll do that at the runway. Wonder if we can do a run up. Nothing really behind us. Actually, it's better to give the engine more time to warm up. So I think we won't do that here. Even though we're going to be running pretty low revs to get there. But here we go. Hardly any wind, which is great. So, no stress on our departure here. I think maybe what we'll do today is just go with flaps 1 for our takeoff. Okay, cylinder 1 and 2 are still pretty cold. Cylinder 5 and 6 are the warmest, but that kind of makes sense. If they label them from front to back, then the ones in the front are the ones getting the most air, so they'll be the coldest. What's the temperature like here in the cabin? 16, and that's as hot as we can get with the heater on full. That's crazy. mean, technically with this wind, we could have taken off in this direction as well. Really nothing to stress about. But we can still take off into the wind, and then also that puts us in a better direction. Well, actually, is it the opposite? Oh yeah, it's actually the opposite. We're going in the direction we're facing now. Anyway, not the end of the world at all. Nice long runway here at Alice Springs, obviously. Now, if we have issues with the magnetos, then I really don't know what the problem is, because they're fully checked out. They all came back 100% working. So I didn't replace anything. It would be cool, like, if they put a thing in the tablet to keep track of how much you've spent on your aircraft. Because obviously we would have still had to pay for check, but not as much as if it got checked and we had to replace parts and all of that. So that would be kind of interesting as well. And try to keep your costs down without skipping on your maintenance and stuff like that. Someone actually commented on one of the other Oz videos and said it's really expensive out here in Australia as well, which kind of makes sense because you've got to get those parts out here to the middle of nowhere in some cases. So like as we're crossing these remote areas, you would want to try and keep your maintenance to a minimum as opposed to being somewhere like in Sydney or Perth or something like that. So yeah, that was an interesting point. Okay. Right, so we'll pull up here nice and gently, hopefully. Yeah, let's engage the parking brake. We can bring the mixture rich and go up to 1800 RPM. Oh no, what am I saying? 1800 is after that. We go up to 2000 first. Like so. Okay, fuel's good, fuel selection's good, mixture's good, throttle 2000 RPM. All in the green, fantastic. Temperatures are okay now. Right, so we don't want to drop. Maximum drop of 125, so that's 875. That's okay. And that's right on the limit. And then no difference more than 50. That is right on the limit. See, and it's that one. But we checked them and everything was fine. So we're not more than 50 between them, are we? No, so I think we're just okay. So it's weird though that it's still dropping very close to that 125 RPM limit. Okay, back to 1800. Test the carb heat. Cool. And then I'm going to cycle the prop as well. Okay, then we can do landing and strobe lights. And fuel pump on. Oops, I just popped a circuit breaker for something. Fuel pump's on. Rudder trim. Right, let's go. Okay, prop full forward. Mixture's good. I'm gonna flick the pitot heat on as well. Let's just remember today that we actually are using flaps for takeoff. Landing lights and strobes. Cool. Get rid of that. And here we go. Okay, there's 70, 80, 85, and rotate. And climb out at about 100. 105-ish. Alright, flaps coming up. Gear coming up as well. Okay, let's get the fuel pump off. Flaps are up, gears up. Everything's in the green. Alright, we can get the autopilot switching on, so that can sort itself out because we're going to use it just now. Alright, and I'm actually going to not fly this entire procedure. We're going to turn a little early. Okay, we're going up to 9,500 feet. And in the cold weather, that engine performance was pretty cool, actually. It accelerated quite a bit faster than usual, I think. Okay, coming up to 5,000 feet. Okay, I can switch off the landing lights now. Alright, I've actually got my headphones unplugged. And someone said you can click on this to turn on the noise cancelling. Oh, that's pretty cool. I did not know that. Let's start bringing the prop back a little bit. So we'll come back to 24 and aim for about 24, 24. That's close enough, I guess. Okay, we can climb a little bit quicker and bleed off a little bit of speed. So just coming through 6,000 feet. This should have probably been on. Normally does it automatically, actually. Anyway. Right, and there is Alice Springs. Let's get the autopilot on. That should just keep us wings level and climbing at the same pitch or same attitude. Okay, because then I'm going to come in here, change this to GPS, and then send us straight to that first waypoint. Oh, that wants us at 9,000. Oh, because I actually did this as IFR waypoint, so we're actually flying this VFR. So we'll be 9,500. Okay, so let's go flight plan. And then we can ditch all of this and just go. I wonder if that'll work. No, because that's just going to keep in between there. We actually want to do this and activate that. That's better. And then we can go into that GPS mode. Okay, coming through 8.5. Beautiful morning out of Alice Springs. Let's have a look at our tablet and just see what's it like in here. Oh, it's now 29. I was just thinking, how can it be warmer up here where it's way colder outside? Because here, oh, it's 12 degrees. I wonder if this is taking into consideration the altitude? Must be. But also the engine's running and producing more heat, so we can let that help us warm up the cabin. Okay, just over 5 hours, but that will come down a bit once we level off, because we'll pick up quite a bit of speed. In fact, a lot of speed. We're going to be ending up here 160-ish probably. Okay, we've got 500 feet to go, so just under a minute's climb. 9.5 is a little warm. Okay, then we're coming up to our 9,500 feet. Now we'll see the speed pick up nicely. So let's just get there to 9.5 and then engage the altitude hold. So the other thing I need to do is just back the power off a little bit more and the RPM for our cruise. Right, so let's go altitude engage, and it should keep that. We'll just adjust the trim as needed. So what does it say here for cruise? Someone commented on one of the other videos, and I can't actually remember. So 18 to 2,400 RPM, because I normally go down to about 2,000. And then up to 24, which we're going to be below that anyway. Something like that, and that gives us an endurance of almost 7 hours, which is brilliant. We're now down to just under 5 hours, 3 hours 41. Right, but there we go. We're all set up in the cruise. Autopilot's on. It's got some pretty long straight legs. That's all it needs to follow. About an hour to the first waypoint, and we'll just be kind of slowly making our way over the outback like this. So I think we'll do a bit of a cruise time lapse, and I will join you guys a bit later when we start prepping to make our way into Longreach, or if anything else happens along the way and they need to check in. So we'll see how it goes. If everything goes perfectly fine, I'll see you just before Longreach. Right, so we've been cruising along for about 3 hours. We've got about 60 miles to go, just under 25 minutes. Everything's looking good in the green. We still actually got plenty of fuel. This aircraft can cruise for a long time. Because if we come down here, what I've actually done, just to keep everything balanced, is have them both on. And so we're still over halfway on our 2 main tanks, and I've got more than a quarter in... Oh, actually, no, that is a quarter. So just under a quarter in each of the tip tanks. So yeah, I'm actually pretty impressed. So we've still got 44. So we started with 90. So half would be 45. But basically half our fuel still remaining. So that's pretty crazy. Right, but we've got 60 miles to go. I'm gonna look up the weather at Longreach, which is YLRE. Okay, so temperature 11, and then a wind 146 at 7. So, other thing I need to do is check this. Does this need recalibrating? So we're 667. Yeah, it does a little bit. So we should be about there. Oh, geez, wrong side. No, it's here. So we were way off. Alright, so wind is 146, which is about there, which is basically going to give us a straight crosswind, so we can pretty much go straight in, I think. That'll work. Right, but still a beautiful morning. Let's have a look at our cabin temperature. We're pretty much perfect. So, I mean, that's crazy. This is saying we still got another 4 hours. I mean, at that rate, we could have gone all the way to Cairns without refueling or stopping. But we're going to visit Longreach. I was actually looking up some information about Longreach, which I have here. So, Queensland and Northern Air Territory Aerial Service, which is what became Qantas, was technically founded in Winton, but Longreach was the first operational base for the airline. So that's why it is known as kind of the birthplace of Qantas. Right, then, this is actually not about Longreach. If we were to descend now, we'd need to descend at about 400 feet a minute, so we'll cruise on for a little bit more. There was something else I wanted to mention about Longreach. Oh yes, in World War II, it was actually a base for the United States Army's B-17s, for some of the B-17s from 28th and 93rd Bombardment Squadrons. And they actually flew missions as part of the Battle of the Coral Sea. Interesting. used to actually be one of the busiest airports in Australia. Not a cloud in the sky. Right, altimeter for Longreach is 1021. So let's set that, because I think we were 1024, 23 or something. There we go. And only 11 degrees seems very cold for Australia. Look at that endurance still, 3 hours and 56 minutes. Which is interesting because when you choose an aircraft on the world map in Flight Sim, it gives you a range ring, and this was kind of right on the edge of the range, and we're actually going to use just under half of our fuel. But I think, which I suspected when I looked at that the first time anyway, that it doesn't take into consideration the tip tanks. I think that's just looking at the main tanks. Outside temperature 11 degrees. Seems very warm for 9,000, and yet the airport is saying 11 degrees on the ground. Doesn't really make sense. Okay, so now if we just start our descent now, we're about just over 700 feet a minute. Let's have a look. What is Longreach's elevation? It's got a nice long runway. It's only at 600 feet. So we want to go down to about 1,600 feet. So I'm going to disengage the altitude hold. And I'll keep an eye on the power. But we can pick up some speed as well. And aim for about 800 to 1,000 feet per minute descent. Just make sure the speed doesn't go into the yellow, and then we are good. And also just keeping an eye on the manifold pressure, because that's going to increase as we descend. There you can see already with 21.6 to 21.7. So I just want to keep that, or keep an eye on that. And then runway 04 is what we're coming in on, like so. Just backing the power off ever so slightly. Once we land, we're actually going to have to backtrack a bit, because the aprons are all at the runway 04 end. A little bit more power coming off. What are we now? 6 minutes, 18 miles. So I think there's an issue with active sky because that temperature hasn't changed at all. We've dropped a couple of 1,000 feet. And it's still at 11. What are we at now? So we've dropped over 4,000 feet and the temperature hasn't changed at all. Yeah, so just looking at the information in active sky, it shows 9,000 feet temperature 11, 6,000 feet temperature 11, 3,000 feet temperature 13. Okay, so maybe it is working then. Because then if we go to 12,000, it drops to 5 degrees. We didn't go that high, so should start slowly going up now if that is correct, which it is. Okay, so if those figures in active sky are correct, then the sim is showing them correctly. That's crazy. I mean, between 6,000 and 9,000 feet, the temperature stays the same. Right, we are now just 3.5 minutes out. We should be able to see it shortly. I'm going to start backing off the power so we can slow down a bit. Okay, I think I have it in sight. Okay, I'm also going to bring the prop fully in, which will create a bit of extra drag. Okay, we can disengage the autopilot completely now. Yeah, we're still a little high. get the gear down. I don't know if this is gonna work. We might actually be okay. Yeah, in fact, we're gonna be fine. Oh wow, I was wondering if they'd have that there. There's the 747. When we taxi in, we can go have a look at that. I'll tell you about it. It was in the facts that I was reading. One thing I didn't actually do was turn on the landing lights. It's not good. Get the flaps up. Right, welcome to Longreach. And this is actually one of the reasons why I wanted to visit here, is it is one of those detailed airports or handcrafted airports, whatever they call it, directly from Flight Sim. So, in 2002, Qantas brought that 747-200 Victor Hotel Echo Bravo Quebec, named City of Bunbury, and it is now a static display for the museum, the Qantas Founders Outback Museum. Pretty cool, so we can actually see that. I wondered if they'd have that model. That actually looks pretty cool. Okay, so the GA apron, we need to go on Alpha, which is right at the end of the runway. Oh yeah, and there's the 707 next to it. Right, so we head down here. This is the way to the GA apron, and then it's on the right. No, left. Okay, let's turn this to standby. Landing lights and strobes. Qantas Limited. Oh, so it seems like some sort of like viewing deck that you go up. What's that in the middle? It's not a DC-3. Right, I think we're just gonna park somewhere here. Is that a DC-3? Qantas definitely operated DC-3s, so it would kind of make sense. Just the cockpit looks a little weird. Okay, we don't want to go too far here so that we can't get out. Okay. So that's good. We can flip this to off. That's fine. Let's switch these guys off and this one off. Cool, and then we can switch off the avionics and the autopilot master. Might as well put the heat back in. Pitot heat can come off. And then I just need to jump out and do tie downs, but I don't think we can actually do some of them from there. Where do we do it here? Is it controls? Wheel chocks, tie downs. Why does it think the parking brake is off? No, because it is. It's awkward. Okay, controls like pitot cover. Disconnect our headphones and everything gets nice and loud. Oh, look at that. The right magneto is on. Even though this is set... Oh, no, never mind. Right, we can put that away. And let's open the door. And obviously... switch this off. Is that noise going to happen the whole time? Ah, that's such a pity because I wanted to take a walk around here. Right, but then we are safely arrived. And we can spend some time checking out... What was it? The Qantas something museum? Qantas Founders Outback Museum. So we've got the... Oops, we've got the 747-200. I think that's supposed to be a DC-3. It's a bit strange. 707 looks cool. There's a constellation at the back there. And then the rest, I mean, the airport is nice and detailed. These viewing decks, pretty cool, I think. I think this is just the roof. The viewing deck is like here. They've got the stairs, so you can probably go inside it, and then there'll be some more cool stuff in the museum over there. I wonder what this is. Anything else at the back there? Because no, that's the 742, 707, and the Connie out there in the sun, unfortunately. Okay, that's pretty cool. So welcome to Longreach. As I said, kind of birthplace of Qantas. But that is going to bring another one of our long legs to an end. And obviously that's going to be the end of the video. So in the next leg, we're going to be heading up to the coast to Cairns. There's some points of interest along the way, which we can go and check out as we go. And then I think we'll have one more leg right up to the the northern tip of Australia, and then we're crossing into Papua New Guinea. So starting to make progress. Obviously, these longer legs are a little bit more boring to fly and probably to watch as well, but it does start to get us making a little bit more progress. So it's time to kind of get out of Australia and up into Papua New Guinea, which is really going to be a challenge, I think, because of the weather. It's always raining there, it's always cloudy, and the terrain is going to pose a challenge as well. So that's going to be very interesting. But anyway, that is going to bring us to the end of this video. If you did make it all the way to this point, as always, I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. And if you do want to follow along, or if you did enjoy the video, you know what to do down below, and I'll see you in the next one.